So today's speaker, Gijs van Wulfen, is recognized as an expert in innovation and design thinking and has more than 250,000 social media followers. I'm pleased to say he's also a very long-time supporter of ISPIM. I can't actually recall the first time I met Gijs, but it's certainly a long time ago. Regular attendee at lots of our conferences. So it's great to have him today.
Thank you, Stefan.
You're welcome. So Gijs today is going to be talking about inspiration and in particular, managing inspiration for innovation. Over to you, Gijs.
Thank you very much, Stefan. Well, welcome everybody. It's great that people from all over the world are here. So I know people from Japan are there, from South Africa, from Colombia, from Pretoria, and also from Europe, Italy, Poland. Welcome everybody. Thanks for being here. So my little book is, it's kind of a 101 storytelling blogs. It's about the innovation mindset, organizing innovation, starting innovation, ideating, implementing innovation, and there are some of the innovation pioneers I admire in it. First of all, what is innovation? Well, it's a good question to start with. I think it's one of the most misused business words over the last 5 years. And I try to make a very simple definition. For me, innovation is doing new things or doing things in a new way. Now, the three keywords here is new. What is new? Well, that's a good question. According to me, it's only new when your customers say it's new, right? It's things. One of my favorite books is The 10 Types of Innovation. And innovation is so much more than only product development. You know, it can be customer experiences, it can be internal processes, it can even be a way of organizing yourself. And I think the most important thing is doing. Just ideating and just make even a business case. You know, not a lot happens. So it's all about making things possible and realizing things and get it out on the market. Doing new things or doing things in a new way. Now, there are some depressing facts on innovation. We're doing a pretty shitty job here. Just some figures here. 66% of all new products fail within 2 years. Booz & Company research that. Dublin Group mentions 96% of all innovations never return their cost of capital. Mind you, 96. Morgan Stanley estimates that of the 2.7 trillion companies spend on new technology, 500 billion is wasted. For every new product idea, 4 enter development and 1.5 enter launch, and only 1 succeeds. And I here mean real business cases. Wow. Study of Stephen and Berlin's, even more disastrous ratios. You need 3,000 ideas to get 1 successful product. And no, it's not better with startups. A US study of 1,000 startups, it has shown that 95% of them also fail to return the project, to return an investment. So let's innovate the way we innovate. I get motivated by these pretty depressing facts, and it motivates me to try different things and to try to do better. We got a lot of improvement here to make. Now, when should you not innovate? That's a strange question to a lot of people, but I think, you should innovate on some moments and not continuously. When should you not innovate? You have to pick the right moment. You only have 1 moment to initiate innovation. So once you do it in a company, you better pick the right moment, right? When your brand and line extensions will bring you lots of extra revenues and profits for the coming years, why innovate? Just exploit first. And you have to start in time ago, of course, your new innovation project, but don't mind if you don't innovate, if you only improve for 5 years. When everybody says, yeah, we need to innovate, but nobody wants to take responsibility for it. It becomes quiet in a room and everybody says, oh, no, this is yours, right? When there's no internal support, don't even try it. Also, long-term planning is around 3 months in the company. Never innovate. When you just got some new business cases, then somebody will do another cost-cutting round, and they will never invest 1, 2, 3, 4 years, which is essential to bring innovation live. And also, you know, when you're so successful and you just launch a new product and it needs exploitation, spend your money in the exploitation part and not the exploration part. How do you pick then the right moment to innovate? Well, pick the moment you want to innovate or the moment you need to innovate. The moment you need to innovate is when doing nothing is a bigger risk, when you can't afford to wait any longer. These are the words for Dr. Norbert Reithofer at BMW, the Vorstandsvorsitzenden, the president of the board, when asked, why did BMW spend 400 million euros in the electrical car projects, the i3 and the i8? They just had to do something, right? So either pick the moment you have to innovate, but most of all, pick the moment you want to innovate. Pick the moment where you think, wow, we now need to step up to get innovative results in 4 or 5 years. That's the moment. And you need a CEO with a strong vision. What do you do in the meantime? In the meantime, my message is very simple. Make people nervous. Make them nervous. Make them nervous that doing nothing is a bigger risk. Take them to startups who challenge your position, or Environment Trend Watcher, which will wake them up. Pay a visit to ex-customers, why they left your organizations. Take them to technical universities to show what the technology of the future are. Or visit young customers who don't even consider of finding your brand attractive. Make people nervous. As CEO, make the middle managers nervous. And if you're one of the middle managers or consultants, try to make people nervous. And when they only see that doing nothing is a bigger risk, then engage with them. Now, why do most managers fear innovation? The CEO once told me, Gijs, I learned 3 lessons by getting all those innovators at my desk. First of all, in the end, it always takes more money than they initially promise. In the end, it always takes much more time than they promise. And in the end, the business case is always worse than they promise. Innovators overpromise all the time. Now change your strategy. Change your strategy and underpromise and overdeliver. When we end the project with the 4th innovation methodology, we present many new business cases. Many. Say, no, it's only many new business cases. We try to underpromise. And then they see the business case, they say, whoa, this has even been better than I showed a lot of those business cases we worked a year on, right? So change your strategy, underpromise and overdeliver. That's the way to get confidence in innovation again. Now, of course, you need to change your mindset. That's not so very easy to do. You have to appeal to people's imagination. Now, I ask what-if questions to promote a more innovative mindset. There are some simple questions like, what would you do if we were now a startup company? What would we do if we had unlimited access now to money and people and resources? What would Google do if we were taken over by them? What would our way of working be if the present way of working would be forbidden by law? Or what would my favorite comic, Spider-Man, do? Or, the favorite hero of my childhood. So make people imagine again. Now, the journey to an innovative corporate culture is not a moment, right? Now, you can't change a conservative culture overnight. It's a journey. The 4th innovation methodology, which is there now around 10 years in the Netherlands, and I guess live in the rest of the world for over 5 years now, it taught me something. A CEO who was on the extended team told me, well, guys, the main catch of 4th is the bycatch, and the bycatch is the main catch. He uses fishing metaphor. bringing back 5 business cases. That was the main target, which is definitely delivered, but even more important was that every person in the team explored opportunities, discovered customer frictions, ideated new concepts. They drafted business cases. Now the journey changed their mindset, and it's the start of a more innovative corporate culture. So it's kind of a chicken and egg. We first make an innovative mindset and then do an innovation project, or do we do an innovation project which changes the mindset? Now, when I was a consultant, I believed in those trainings, and afterwards, it would deliver the mindset. Now, after being on this journey for more than 12 years, I believe it's the other way around. You have to start an innovation journey, which is not a half-day workshop, but a real journey with a team. And during the team, the innovation journey will change their mindset. And that's the big benefit. Now, then, our ideas have to pass some kind of innovation committee or steering group. Do you hate innovation steering committees too, like me, right? They're too controlling. They're too far removed from everyday actual work. They're too bureaucratic, and there are such a lot of political games in there, which have nothing to do with the content of your innovation proposal. Now, innovation steering committees say no because they were not on the same journey with you. I'm now the age that I'm asked for innovation steering committees. And then you suddenly get a proposal. Of course, you get also a nice customer journey, most of the time a nice movie. Of course, there are some nice canvases presented, but there's this business plan, and you read the business plan, and you think, I don't know anything about blockchain. Do I need to say yes? I don't know anything about this market. I don't know anything about a pay-per-use business model, which is now introduced. And then you get careful. You get a bit scared. And then you bullshit them with 50 questions. Mm-hmm. So you have to take top executive to spend time in the project. Invite them on your journey. Make them co-creators, right? And make them decide on the spot. Once they are on the journey, they're really committed. They are well engaged, ask them to make a decision soon to keep the energy in the project. So invite steering member committees or member of the board of your clients or of your organization on your journey to co-create with you. Now it's I innovation and not we innovation. That's what I learned, right? You can invent on your own, but in an organization you can't innovate. How many people do you need in your organization or at a big client to go from idea all the way to the market? How many? 10, 50, 100, 500? You need a lot of people. Everybody is involved. Now, why should I stick out my neck for your idea? I won't. It's too risky. So take them with you. Why do you and your wife or you and your man love your children? Because you made them together. So we innovate as of the start and not innovate. Now, should we have an innovation department or not? That's a good question. My experience is you should start an innovation department only in a facilitating role. Most of the time the results are so bad. No, we need to specialize a separate group of people, make them apart, make them an innovation department to gain speed. But what actually happens is, yes, the ownership is great in that innovation department and the speed is great. But in the end, when the new product ideas or business models or services has to be rolled out by all the company, nobody will accept that. Hey, it's your child. Mm-hmm. That's why you should facilitate it. You should help others to be innovative. I think that's the role of an innovation department is. So make a small department with a lot of tools, a lot of methodologies, also some budget to start stimulating the front end. And once there's business cases and there are projects, let the other divisions, working companies, adopt them and develop them themselves. So you should only have an innovation department that is facilitating. Because the quick journey is a long journey, and the long journey is the quick journey. You have to take everybody with you, step by step. Now, we talked about the organizations, the department, now the innovation manager. Who should that be? An insider or an outsider? A lot of companies who innovate for the first time say, no, we have to hire somebody who knows this. But to me, you first should look an innovation manager inside your organization first. You know, anybody can learn to work with those canvases, come on. We learned it, so that's not so complicated, right? Or to think outside the box. A lot of people can think outside the box, right? But the difficult thing is, you know, that if you're not one of the guys, why should others follow you? If you hire an outsider now, it takes them 2-3 years to become part of the gang. Because before people know, okay, who is this girl, who is this man, right? So look for an insider first, you know, and let him or her develop herself as an innovation manager. Now, then about teams. A great creative team has an ideal mix of career backgrounds and working relationships. Well, that's nothing new, I know. But I found a very interesting study I share with you. It's a study of 12,422 video games that were produced worldwide in the industry from 1997 to 2009. And they looked at the group composition of those teams. And they found some amazing results. Of course, the end conclusion is what we know. But there are 3 things I'd like to highlight from this study. First of all, interesting is that games published, developed and published by one firm are much likely to be more distinctive than the others because it needed less negotiation to reach out and to reach consensus. Now here we are in a time where everybody preaches open innovation. Oh, we need to co-create to get everybody in. Well, you know, it's not always easy to decide. And in the end, you end up with some kind of consensus stuck in the middle. And innovation never is in the middle. Innovation is always at the outside borders. So this proves that when you are working with more companies, the more complex and the more consensus you need, and the chance that it will be really distinctive will be less. Another interesting thing is about the group cohesion. Teams with great group cohesion led to a very narrow focus. So when you want to be successful, you have to have a team of teams. You know, let there be several specialist teams, 2 or 3 people together, and then unite them in one big team. Don't let them be too good friends because they need to fight, It gets better from that. So a great team is a kind of a mix of teams, with different views who respect each other and of whom you can make a safe group. Now, who are then the best innovators? There are three types of profiles. I like this one here: need seekers, market readers, and technology drivers. Technology drivers, they are, the Googles and the Bushes who develop technology. Market readers are the ones who are very good in following their customers, monitoring them and following them very closely. Like Caterpillar or Hyundai. Now, interesting is that, it are the need seekers who have deep end user understanding who lead to superior innovation performance. Now, that's, I think, a very important conclusion here. Think of Apple, of course, but also Procter & Gamble, right? So they have superior end user understanding. They often understand what the end user wants better than they themselves do, right? And they get the best results. Now, the thing is, when you look at innovation, most of it is all incremental innovation. Why do they dominate? 85% of all the resources are spent on incremental innovations. I would even call them improvements, and I don't mind. if you can innovate an easy way, why do it a difficult one, right? But if you want to be really disruptive, you have to put your money where your mouth is. When you put in everything in one project funnel, you know, of course, who will win? The incremental ones. Why? They are quicker, we understand them better, they are less risky, and the business case is of more profoundness than a disruptive one. So highlight those disruptive golden nuggets and give them a special treatment. Otherwise, incremental innovation will always win. Now, how can customers lead you then to big ideas? I love to work with customer frictions because great innovation provides a simple solution to relevant customer friction. And I'd like to tell you 3 little stories of projects I did, I was involved with. The first one is Brel, a cement company. They were almost going broke 5 years ago. There was a big building crisis, and the problem was with the architects. In the Netherlands, 3 out of 4 architects disappeared. They went broke. You know, their clients, they just wanted to stand a building, you know, because real architectonical stuff was expensive. So their friction was, how can we get architectonical freedom at a cheaper price? And that formed the basis of the 3D printing initiative of Brel. So they started a 3D printing business, you know, printing unique things very quickly at a fraction of the cost traditional prefab was. Another one was a language institute. I've been there myself. In the Netherlands, we have a language institute at the nuns. We call it the Nonnen van Vught. They live in Vught. And, you know, managers and consultants go there, you know, in 1 week at the nuns, and you know another language. And, well, they remembered me. I was there in 2013 when I wanted to do a 4 project in Germany, so I had to know German, and I learned it in a week there. And 3 years later, they remembered me, and because they needed to innovate themselves. Now, the week at the nuns is legendary in the Netherlands. Well, they found another frictions. There were also clients who said, well, I'm busy during the week. I want to do weekends. You know, I'm too busy during the week. And there's also were some mostly Anglo-American companies who said, come on, do I have to get somebody out of the business process for 5 days and spend the money? No, if you want to learn a language, you do it in the weekends. And that's what they did. So they now have Regina Coeli language weekends. And they have a full operations of 150, hotel of 150 rooms. And it was now not only occupied 5 days a week, but 7 days a week, day and night. And the last one I like to talk to you about customer frictions is a UNHCR project. I trained Andrew Bagori of the UNHCR, the United Nations care organization. He was leading 3 refugee camps in Uganda. The frictions was with women and girls who got arrested, who got harassed and violated in all those refugee camps. And the question was, how can we stop that? And what was happening was that they were responsible for cooking. And for cooking, you need fire. And for fire, they used a charcoal and wood. So the young women went into the woods, and there they would be harassed or even raped. How can we solve this? And he ideated on this customer friction and came up with a wonderful solution. They had banana farms in Uganda, and they got the banana peelings, they dried them, and they made briquettes out of them. And those briquettes lasted 3 times as long as normal charcoal they used, which meant that they would need much less wood, which meant that the girls and women wouldn't have to go as often in the woods. And that's how they reduced really dramatically the number of rapes and viruses of those women. It's wonderful. It won the Innovation Excellence Award of the UNHCR in 2015, and I'm very proud that the methodology being used in this way. Now, you may have a big idea, but it has to fulfill three things. It must be relevant, it must be feasible, and it must be viable. So be sure to work out your ideas from 4 perspectives. You know, the customer, will they buy it? When you got a good customer friction, that's a wonderful base. But also the technology, can we deliver it? And the business model, will it pay off? And the risk, if it will be a failure or even it will be a success, can we survive that? Those are the perspectives that your board or your client will look from. Now, when you got a great idea, okay, how can we protect it then? Well, I think the best protection is speed, great and fast execution. That's the best protection for your idea, right? So you, of course, you can go through patents, but when you speed up and you lead the market, be sure to keep up the speed. Then nobody can follow you there. Now, finally, okay, now we have a great initiative, but how can we upscale it? So again, back to Brel. The business case for the 3D concrete printing was made end of 2014. We're now 4 years further. They did it in a kind of a startup way after the business case, and now they are in the scale-up phase. So they dream and learn by executing. That's how they do it. Their message is keep the dream alive. Even when you don't have results on short term, keep the dream alive in the boardroom. Especially at those moments when they need to invest, right? Where you need to scale up. Then it's serious investments. Intensive care for your launching customer. You know, you can learn a lot by co-creating with your customer and keeping closely aligned to your process and vice versa. And the third, you can't build a new market alone. You have to look for partners with complementary business cases. So a couple of partners in the total value chain, you know, together can innovate a value chain. And this is what Brel has been doing. They started with a second-hand robot from their own closed plant, and they reconstructed it to a 3D printing machine. You know, they worked together with a university startup and the software guys. And now, after 3 years, they are scaling up. They are opening now in January a 2,000 square meter hall to do it on an industrial basis. They are buying now more robots. They are investing heavily also in software. And they will probably have their first order within now and 6 weeks, which is order for €1 million to make Gaudi type of balconies, refurbishing apartments in Den Helder, a town of the Netherlands. So this is how you upscale a radical initiative. Innovation is all about doing something new. And I wish you all a lot of success with it. Thank you very much for your attention. Over to you, back to you again, Stefan.
Thanks very much, Gijs. I'll give you a second to have a drink of water. I suspect you might need it at this point. But yes. A number of questions come in. Be very welcome. We've got room for a few more for sure. Feel free to type them in and we can moderate as we go. I have a couple of questions actually to start off with. I mean, Gijs, you started off by reminding us, or somewhat depressing us, I might even say, with a few statistics around failure. 66% of products fail within 2 years. Was it 90% don't even meet their initial return on investment? That seems to paint quite a bleak picture, but surely there are success stories out there, and maybe even repeatable and repeated success stories. Some people must be getting some of this right. Do you have certain examples of that?
Yes, well, so I told you the story of Brel, right? Yes, but there are often very unknown companies. Everybody talks and writes about Facebook and Google and what Amazon's been doing. Yes, there are some wonderful stories to tell and to share. So I love the one of UNHCR or the one of Regina Celi. So there are a lot of companies who hasn't been innovative for 10 or for 15 or for 20 years. And it's a long journey, but those stories exist, and I know a lot of you know those stories. And I would like to write more blogs about them. The unknown little heroes who turn a very conservative company or organization in a very innovative one.
Right, sure. Mybrit Sørensen asks an interesting question. It's just come in. It's talking about risk. We obviously understand there's risk involved with this, but how can we mitigate real or experience risks associated with any innovation? I mean, yeah. for example. Yeah,
great question, and I changed completely my view on that the last 10 years, because I think you should you mitigate the risk by showing that it's possible. So do experiments. Do always experiment. And in the Innovation Maze, another book I wrote, it's one of the 10 steps. You first experiment, and when the experiment works, then you make a business case, and not the other way around. So first start to experiment, and when it works on a small scale, then get a business case to scale up.
It's interesting. I wonder, I'm sort of trying to draw a bridge here between, you spoke towards the beginning of your presentation about over-promising.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes you possibly need to overpromise in order to get the resources, to get the financing, or just to get the support from people. Yet down the road, that can be to your own detriment.
Yeah.
The more you promise, the greater the risk is involved there as well. The more it's invested. So how do you reconcile those elements?
So don't overpromise, Stefan. Don't. You know, say, we have 5 uncertainties to deal with it. Don't try to hide them. An innovation pitch is not a sales pitch, because you have to deliver it yourself. So, but when you open up, you say, hey guys, and when the board has been involved on the journey, they know also all the risks there. Hey guys, we have these 5 risks, but this is how we're going to mitigate them. So make a plan to mitigate those risks. Don't try to hide them. So yeah, that will be nice, and that's a strategy which works with an intellectual public much better than try to hide them.
Yeah, I mean, this is then, if we then look at the decision makers in terms of the resources, they then need to understand that this is the mindset that the entrepreneur or the innovator is coming with, that they are telling the warts and all story. It's not a polished presentation they're seeing.
Yes.
I mean, do you think that across various industries that the executives are making those sort of decisions understand that?
Well, no, I don't think so. But there's a lot of different cultures all over the world, right?
Sure, yeah.
So, and in Europe we have a kind of more open-minded culture. I think more in the Northern Europe than in the Southern Europe, with every respect. But but when I look at a culture like Japan, they don't want any risks at all. The way they decide is based on a long journey of understanding, and a decision can take there 1 year.
Right. Quite different. Okay. Dennis Favre asks an interesting question, talking about the actual organization, so organizing for innovation, and whether you have some advice for product managers who are trying to reconcile short-term and long-term issues.
I've been a product manager in my life. It was the most frustrating thing. It was a very frustrating role. Because in the end, they say that you need to build a vision and to build a product portfolio and to develop it. And in daily life, you're only managing the shit of every day. It's all very short term. So as product manager, I try to do it myself and to do an innovation process like that. And I failed. So I guess that as project manager, you should look for some help. If with the knowledge of now, I would have asked somebody else to help me with it, to have a process with it. And I guess a lot of product managers don't have a process to innovate. And especially what you don't have a structure and a discipline to innovate. Because now you have a session, and then, there's short-term results go down like this, and you have to do all short-term actions, and then your focus is off innovation again. So what I believe in is that you need a kind of a method, a process, a structure, which helps you in a disciplined way, in a kind of an innovation sprint to some real concrete results. Because otherwise it's always too ad hoc, because when something goes wrong in production, it has to have your attention. When sales drops, it has to have your attention. When there's a quality problem, it has to have your attention. And then you only are focusing on the problems of today and not of the opportunities of tomorrow. They will lose.
Mm-hmm. Mybrit follows up in a similar way. She's talking, maybe, if I interpret the question correctly, whether there can almost be a tension between a champion, possibly an idea champion, a product champion, I'm not quite sure, and whether this can actually work with an external innovation manager who is expert in innovation per se. Perhaps the champion doesn't have this capability. Do you think this can work with an inside champion working?
Yes, I strongly believe in inside champions. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That's, innovation. I could learn it. Come on, I'm not a very special guy. I was a product manager in industry one day. The only thing you need is a process, a good process, and a good team. That's what you need. But what I believe is that there are two roles in innovation. And I think that a product champion has to be on the content side. And then there is the process side. So when I was in industry, I tried to do both. I completely got mixed up. So you have to separate the content side, the product manager or the product champion, from the process side. And the process side is an innovation facilitator. Now, the facilitator can come from inside or outside, of course, right? But so don't mix the two heads there. Keep the heads different. And as a product champion, I would look for a good facilitator, an internal one or an external one. So from outside, somebody could help him manage the process. And while he will be responsible for the content, not only at the start of the innovation process, but of course, through the whole innovation process from idea to implementation and market launch. Thanks.
I hope that sheds some light. Of course, here we just almost gone to talking about two individuals, but we know it's not just about individuals. Individuals have a role. Letitia Migliola asks a question. How do we keep positive tension when it comes to we innovation without losing the power of I in innovation?
I think that in the innovation team there has to be something to get for everybody. For one, will it be, it's my project group. I have to be in it because I'm responsible. Otherwise, they just want to contribute to bring creativity. Others like to share. Others, so I think you have to find a mix between managing all the different egos you have in a company, but also stress and make the egos all very clear that without everybody in the room, nothing will happen. Yeah. So you will have to find some kind of balance. And I know Letitia, and she knows that very well how to handle it in Italy.
Okay, that's good. Yeah. Good. Maybe then a last question from myself, requiring a bit of reflection perhaps on your part. Talk much about an innovation journey. And you described how it's a journey, journey, mindset and success, how they're all wrapped together. Your work over the last 10 years, shall we say, we've really been focusing on this innovation journey.
Yes.
How's your journey been? What are the things that you think you really understand now that you really didn't understand 8-10 years ago?
Okay. Can we extend the seminar with 20 minutes?
No, because you've got to give us your best elements.
Oh, well, there are so many learnings. I think the major learning is to never underestimate people from the work floor. The machine operators, they are often have a much more bigger contribution than some kind of manager I once was, right?
Yeah.
So I think personalities count instead of titles of people. I think that's what I learned. I learned that innovation is so hard to do in practice that you should wait until everything is well prepared, until all the 5 conditions are met, and then you should start. And because, there's when one condition is not right, then your project will stop and will fail. So I've become much more critical on the moment. Do we start innovation or not? And I only start it now when I'm pretty sure it will be difficult anyway, that we can reach the end goal. So is there really support from the top or not, right? So now I always talk to the ones who decide on innovation. And when they don't say, oh, well, we'll see, I say, no, well, if you'll see, I'll see too, and I don't do the project. So be very critical once you step in. And I think the last 10 years, I learned that you can fail from so many reasons that I first check them on my checklist, are all these good conditions met before I really start?